I got kidnapped and infected by an alien brainworm, and if I don't get it out, I will die. I wake up in a pod inside of an alien spaceship, but the ship gets under attack by dragons. So the pod broke and I need to escape before I die. So I leave the pod room to find a way out of this place, but when I enter the next room, I hear someone crying for help. So I go up this 2-meter tall elevator to meet a dead guy with a talking brain. The brain asks me to rip it out of the skull. I do it because it's too fun and not to help a talking brain. As friends, we continue down the ship. Then leaving the inner parts of the ship, we see the place we have been taken to. A red, evil-looking lava zone. But then I get ambushed by a frog woman, better known as Gif Yankee.
Abomination. This is your end.
We see that we both had the same brainworm, so we team up and continue down the ship to meet our first group of enemies, 3 small imps, which we completely stomp. Then we walk into the next room, where we meet another girl that's luckily not a Gif Yankee. So we help her out of the pod, and the 3 of us enter the command room, where we see the alien who put the worms in our brain. But instead of fighting the alien, we run past him directly to the command module, where we take control of the ship, but accidentally crash it. I wake up on a beach, not knowing where I am, but I find the girl that I saved from the pod. She must have been knocked out when the ship crashed, but I ignore her for now and continue to search the ship. I walk past some of the brain bugs I saw on the ship, but this time they're aggressive and trying to kill me. After sneaking past them, I find a man trying to escape a portal, but I walked away and ignored his cries for help. I used the same portal to go back to the start. Then I wake up the girl who introduces herself as Shadowheart. I saw she had a mysterious device that she was trying to hide, but I ignore it for now. We both have brainworms, so we decide to team up so we can get rid of them. We kill the brain bugs and continue to explore the area, till we meet the next person who introduces himself as Astarion. Just like the man in the portal, he was asking for my help, but I ignored him and started to walk away, but he attacked me with a knife. I tried to overpower him, but I failed. So instead I punched him in the face. We both got up on our feet and discovered that we had the same brainworm from the ship. Because of our shared problem, we decided to team up and he would meet us later that day. We split it up for now and I continued exploring. I go back into the crashed ship where I see the mind flare from earlier there, but this time it's dying on the floor. As revenge, I stomp his head in. We looked through the entire ship and I decided to head north so I could find some sort of settlement where I can find a healer and get this worm out of my hand. And I found the Gif Yankee frog woman from earlier, but she's stuck in a cage this time. She asked for help like every other person before. Because I'm feeling nice, I asked her to say the one magic word.
Never.
She refused, so I left her to die. Don't forget, being nice is free. Next to where she was hanging, I found a couple of his ruins. There were a couple of bandits there, but I was able to scare them away. But then, I saw a totally normal and not dangerous hole in the ground. I couldn't hold my temptation, so I instantly jumped in, without even quick saving. When I landed in the hole, I was surrounded by enemies. And totally did not spend 2 hours trying to kill the same guys over and over and over again, because I didn't save when I was outside the hole. But anyway, when I killed them, I looted all their stuff and stashed it in my bags. I left the basement fully loaded with junk I would never use in my entire life. I continued my journey north till I saw a settlement that needed my help. I needed to sell the stuff in my inventory, so I decided to help them out to kill the goblins. We easily killed the goblins together, and they let us into the city, and I was able to meet with one of their leaders. I asked if they had any local healers, but he said he was out of town, and I could only meet his apprentice. He also asked me to convince the chief druids to not close the grove from the outside world, so all the other people there would be exiled and die. I leave him and go to the first vendor I see, to dump all my trash. I go deep into the grove to meet one of the people who defended the camp, a warlock named Will, but I notice he has the same brainworm as me, so we also decide to team up so we could get it out of our heads. I talk around the grove and find out there's a goblin camp which has a secret basement with a bunch of loot in it. Then I go down to a druid's apprentice for help when a child steals my gold. I chase after the child, trying to teach him a lesson, aka throw him off a cliff, but he was able to escape before I caught him. Very unlucky. I continue over to the inner grove, and they let me in because I helped them defend against the goblins. Before I enter, I see a clown-looking man dressed in blue who is asking me some questions about the attack on the grove. He tells me he's gonna break into the Goblin Camp. I meet the main leader of the grove, a druid woman. She has captured a child that was stealing and was planning to kill it. As a very moral and outstanding citizen, I convinced her not to kill the child, because I would never ever think of doing something like that. Then I meet up with the healer's apprentice. She tells me what I have in my brain is a tadpole that will turn me into a mind flare if I don't get it out. The main healer guy was on an expedition in a Goblin Camp, but he has been lost, so I need to help him to get the worm out of me. And she also tells me if I ever turn into mind flare, to drink a vial of poison so I kill myself before I kill everyone else. Finally, before leaving the grove, I see a goblin in a cage who has been captured by the druids. We make a deal. If I let her out, she will escort me into the Goblin Camp without getting killed. So I leave the druid place to find a lockpick so I can unlock the cage. After we leave the grove, we see a man bleeding out on the floor, surrounded by his family. I talk to them and I recognize they have the same brainworm as my friend. friends. They call me a true soul and tells me that I'm chosen by the Absolute. So the dying man instantly starts trusting me and tells me to protect his family. I continue with my search till I meet a strange man on top of this mountain in the middle of nowhere, but he offers to take out my brainworm. I'm interested, so he teleports me into his house and turn into the literal devil, but I have a hard time trusting the devil, so I decline his deal. So he sends me back. Then I go to my camp to sleep for the day, but when I dream, a dwarf comes to me and is like, "I'm like the guy who saved you when the spaceship crashed and also preventing you from becoming a mind flare, so you should like totally listen to me. Also, the brainworms give you special powers. It would be real cool if you used them. Bye." I wake up the next morning to continue my exploration, where I see a big beautiful garden and two men arguing with an old lady. They call her an evil hag and tells me that she has kidnapped their sister. She denies it, but I can see through her lies. Then she teleports away. Brothers are still angry, so they go to the witch's house to kill her. I enter the old lady's house and find the girl kidnapped, but the old lady can sense that I have a tadpole in my brain and offers to take it out in exchange for my eye, so I ignore the girl and accept the deal. Then she transforms into a monster. She rips out my eye and then tries to take out my brainworm, and then says she can't take it out and escapes to her lair.
Scammer gets scammed, buddy.
I leave the hag's house and go to bed, but during the night, a Astarion comes to me and tries to suck me off. Suck my blood, because it turns out he's a vampire. I tell him it's okay that he's a vampire, as long as he doesn't try to suck my blood, and if he does, I will kill him. After waking up the next day, I go back to the grove and unlock the cage for the goblin. Then I follow her over to the Goblin Camp. They let us in through the front entrance, but when I'm walking into the main castle, I fall to the ground and see hallucinations of 3 different people. The voice was demanding me to obey them and also told me these people speak for me. But then Shadowheart pulls out the magical device from earlier, and the voices stop and I got free from their commands. After we flee, Shadowheart explains that her job is to bring the device to Baldur's Gate at all costs, and she says it's very powerful and very important that we keep it secret. I don't know how we were in the middle of the Goblin Camp, falling on the floor and pulling out a magical device without anyone noticing. But anyway, continue deeper into the Goblin Camp. I see the blue clown from earlier, but this time he has been captured by the goblins and was used as a human MP3 player. I walk past him to enter the deepest part of the goblins' lair. Thanks to our escort, they let us in, and I meet another old lady. She's one of the leaders of the Goblin Camp and tells me she can help me get the worm out of my head. I'm a bit skeptical from earlier, but I follow her into her room. She tells me for her to do the procedure, my friends need to leave the room first. They leave the room, so it's just me and the old lady left. She gives me a potion that's totally not poisonous and tells me to drink it. I'm very skeptical, so I say no. So instead she casts a sleeping spell on me and I wake up in the basement under the castle. I'm locked up, so I try to break out of the chains, but I'm not able to. But then a girl comes out from a Doctor Strange portal, killing the old lady and saving me. She tells me we will meet again, but I can tell you that doesn't happen. I think she works for the demon guy we met earlier. When I go deeper into the cave, I find a secret door you need a special pattern to unlock. I think this is the secret treasure room they were talking about earlier, so I will come back to this later. I regroup with my team and go back to the main hall, where I find a man dressed in black and spiky armor. He tells me that he's a follower of Luita, the goddess of pain, and he was sent to the Goblin Camp to help the goblins with torturing their prisoners. But he thinks the goblins are too dumb to understand how to properly torture someone, so he offers to torture me instead. I obviously accept the proposal, as the honorable paladin I am, and he tells me to face the wall so he can begin. I comply and do it. Then he starts hitting me with his whip. After I'm done, I get a nice buff, which was obviously the plan from the beginning, 100%. He lets me continue searching the Goblin Camp. I walk into the room right next to where I got spanked, and I find the blue clown man. He's being held captive by the goblins. I walk up to the guard and persuade them to give him to me so he can be my personal slave. The guard left the room, so it's just me and the other guy. I let him out of the cage and tell him to go to my camp so we can meet up later. As I continue to search for the leaders of the camp, I find a prison where there's a bear locked in a cage. I remember the druids telling me about the super healer who went to the Goblin Camp and got lost. I put 2 and 2 together and realized the bear is a druid, so I help the bear out and kill the prison guards and 2 little children. The bear transforms into a person and I tell him about my brainworm, and he says to me that he can't do anything about it. But he tells me all the tadpoles are coming from Moonrise Towers, the base of the Absolutes. I also ask him about the artifact, but he has no idea where it comes from and what it is. So the druids are no good, but the Absolute can help me find out more about these brainworms. If there only was a way to become better friends with the Absolute. He also asked me to kill the leaders of the Goblin Camp so we could protect the grove. I left the prison and found the second leader of the Goblin Camp, a red demon dude trying to speak with a mind flare. I realize it's the mind flare I killed earlier on the ship. I need to stop him before he finds out it was me who killed him, because if he knows I'm the one who killed him, he also knows I'm the one with the artifact they are looking for. The red guy puts a talking spell on the dead monster so he can ask him some questions, but using my brainworm powers I can intercept his mind and make him ask the wrong questions. Luckily it worked and he couldn't find out anything. He tells me to go meet Minfara, the leader of the Goblin Camp, so I listen to him and walk over to her room. When I'm in there, I see her arguing with the goblin that escorted me into the camp. Minfara can see that I'm also a true soul, so she kills the goblin for disrespecting me. She tells me I can work undercover in the grove, open the gate and let all the goblins in. I realize if I help them kill the grove, I'll get a better standing with the Absolute and they will let me into Moonrise Towers. Will disapproves of my plan because he's a pussy. When I'm just about to leave the Goblin Camp, I see a symbol on the wall matching perfectly with the secret locked door in the basement. I go down there and test the same pattern and is able to unlock the door. When I walk in, I see a long ladder going down and down and down. I obviously climb down and then enter the Underdark. The first thing I see is a castle filled with stuff I can steal, so I fill my pockets with everything I can carry. I think this is the place they talked about earlier. I leave the first castle encountering a giant lizard that demolished me like 50 times in a row, so I give up and go back to the Goblin Camp. When I see Minfara getting her goblin army ready to attack the grove. Before I go to the grove, I decided to go back to my camp where I talked to the blue clown man and went to bed, where I meet the dwarf again. And he is like, you should totally kill all the druids in the grove. You can get into the absolute space, find out what the magic stuffs that's controlling the worm and blow it up. So I wake up the next day with a plan in mind. I go up to the druid's grove and they let me in through the front entrance. Then I meet up with the boss man and tell him that I will totally not betray him. I said the absolute think I'm with them and I'm gonna trick them to come here so we have the high ground and we can easily take them out from the walls. He agrees with the plan and tells me to sound the horn so the absolute armies can come. I do it and see the entire army outside the gates. And then Minfara comes and telepathically tells me to open the gates and stab the druids in the back. Then I open the door to the outside.
Traitor, the blade now comes for you.
I also stole the worm from his brain.
Now we can cleanse this place completely. Kill everyone.
We continue deeper into the grove to kill the rest of the people in the village. And I didn't forget to steal all their stuff after killing them. I also killed all the druids, so they don't close the grove from the outside world. They can thank me later for that one. And finally, we killed all the civilians. Luckily, this isn't a war crime, because there is no Geneva Convention. So killing civilians is okay. I talk to Minfara and she tells me we're gonna have a party back at my camp to celebrate our great victory. When we go back to the camp, I see all the goblins and they have locked up the blue guy. I also use Will's brainworm to put in my head and make me stronger. Then I go to Minfara and get some action. After we're done, I go to sleep, but when I'm sleeping, she pulls out the knife and tries to kill me. And right before, she stops and tells me the Absolute gave her the decision to kill me, so she spared my life, and tells me to meet her at Moonrise Towers. She also gave me a musical instrument to summon a guide to help me through the area surrounding Moonrise Towers. After that, her and the Goblin army head out. I woke up the next day ready to follow her steps to Moonrise Towers. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you don't, tell me why in the comments. I want feedback.